Would you guys allow a remotely operated humanoid robot perform surgery on you?
Baby, you wake up from the anesthesia and you see a humanoid robot thing in your face. That is really overwhelming.
Instead of like choosing a Sprite or a Fanta, you just press which surgeon you want to remotely occupy the robots.
Our phones are changing our bodies, but is a screenless future going to be any better?
How can we show up in the algorithm? What does our digital footprint look like?
We could be looking at a potential dumbing down of society.
They know that we're all still going to be obsessed with our screens, and they're going for the next thing, which is when we look up from our screens.
Hello and welcome to episode 117 of Disconnected. I'm your host, Jag Sharma, joined by my co-host, Matt Webster, in Rio de Janeiro, and our special guest, Mel Palleschi, joining us from Bristol in the United Kingdom. And together, we'll be delving into the world of AI, tech, and social media and how it's impacting society and culture. Coming up, our phones may be changing our bodies in ways we barely notice. But just as we're beginning to understand the damage caused by staring at our screens, the tech industry is preparing its next move. Cameras inside AirPods, and a future where technology doesn't disappear from our lives, it simply moves closer to our bodies. Special guest Mel takes us into the changing world of university recruitment, where ChatGPT and other AI tools are becoming increasingly important for young people deciding what and where to study. So what happens when universities are no longer competing for only the attention of students, parents and teachers, but also the recommendation of an algorithm? And Matt continues his slightly concerning obsession with humanoid robots as two low-cost, off-the-shelf robots successfully perform surgery on a living patient for the first time. Are we looking at a future where your surgeon might be standing thousands of miles away, operating through a humanoid machine? All of this, as well as other trending topics. But before we start, allow me to introduce our special guest. Mel Palleschi is an award-winning business development and marketing leader with extensive experience in building partnerships, growing brands, and connecting organizations with audiences across international education. Originally from New York and now based in Bristol, Mel is the sales director at Hubbub Labs, an education-focused marketing agency where she leads the company's growth strategy and working across marketing, automation, content, social media, and community management, as well as other areas. Outside of work, Mel is a passionate advocate for the arts, previously hosting The Culture Show on East London Radio, broadcasting from venues including the V&A, the BFI London Film Festival, and the Shuffle Festival. Apart from speaking American and understanding Bristolian, Mel also speaks fluent Italian. Mel, welcome to Disconnected.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Brilliant. Very much looking forward to this. Thank you for making the time for coming on the pod today. Actually, you have a connection. Don't you know Matt from a previous world or a previous life?
Yeah, we go way back, right, Matt? Oh my gosh, from our London days.
Yeah, from the good old London days back in the mid-2000s when the world was completely different. Yeah, that was fun.
But we used to talk about LinkedIn then, too.
We were the only losers in the crew that spoke about LinkedIn, that's true. And look at us now. Amazing.
LinkedIn stars.
So you'll have some stories on Matt because he's quite coy around us, but he definitely has a past.
No, I definitely have a past, but the thing is that Jag's always trying to dig into my past, and he realizes how far he has to dig because I'm quite a bit older than he realized, I think. I don't know if you've asked me on the pod if he knew how old I was, so I try to keep it on a down low.
I don't need to dig very far, Matt. I've got people in Hong Kong that WhatsApp me and say, oh, hi, you know Matt. Let's meet up. Like, anyway.
Yes, sorry about that. Oh, boy.
Let's not make it about Matt's interesting past, and let's make it about today and Mel. And you know what, guys, let's get into it with the first story, and I'll kick us off. Our phones are changing our bodies, but is a screenless future going to be any better? I want to start this episode with something most of us probably know instinctively, but don't necessarily want to think about it too closely. Our phones may be physically changing our bodies. And I don't mean in some distant evolutionary case. I mean right now. Your posture, your neck, your eyesight, your hands, your motor skills, potentially even the way your lungs work. I recently read an article that started with the writer noticing a small calloused bump on his little finger, exactly where he rests his phone. And I immediately looked down at my own hand, because we all know that position where the phone is resting between your kind of last two fingers, thumb scrolling, head tilted down, shoulders leaning forward. And you suddenly realize that this tiny rectangle has trained millions of people to hold their bodies in almost exactly the same unnatural position for hours every day. One of the best known effects is something called tech neck. When you look down at your phone, the angle of your head can place the equivalent of up to 60 pounds of pressure on your neck. That's around 27 kilograms, effectively the weight of a small child pulling continuously on your spine. And over time, that can damage spinal discs, affect joints and muscles, reduce lung capacity, and permanently change your posture. And then there's eyesight. Rates of short-sightedness have been rising dramatically. And increasingly, the issue may not simply be that we're staring at things too close to our faces. It may be that technology has fundamentally changed where we spend our time. Less time outdoors, less exposure to bright natural light, more time indoors, sitting down, staring at screens. Then there's grip strength, which might almost sound trivial until you discover that grip strength is increasingly seen as an important indicator of overall health and even longevity. And it appears to be declining, particularly amongst younger people. Technology has made some of our movements incredibly precise. We can swipe, we can tap, we can click, we can type rapidly with two thumbs. But when it comes to wider physical ability, making things, gripping things, manipulating physical objects, there is evidence that increased screen time has weakened those skills. And children are particularly important here because fine motor skills are connected not only to physical development, but to cognitive and academic development too. Your hands are one of the main ways your brain learns about reality. You touch things, you build things, you break things, you write, you cook, you draw, you play an instrument, you develop an understanding of the physical world. And if more and more childhood experience is flattened into tapping and swiping on glass, what might we be losing? Even if these effects are relatively small for each person, across an entire generation, we could be looking at a potential dumbing down of society, an inability to think properly in physical reality because our hands are such a central point of contact with the world. And that might sound extreme, but I think it raises a deeper point. Technology doesn't only change what we think, it changes what we repeatedly do. And whatever we do repeatedly eventually changes us. For years, the debate around screen time has focused almost entirely on mental health, attention, addiction, anxiety, social comparison, sleep, but perhaps we haven't paid enough attention to the body. Because the human body wasn't designed around the smartphone. The smartphone trained the human body around itself. And now, just as we're starting to understand some of those consequences, the tech industry are preparing to move us beyond screens. Apple is reportedly developing AirPods with cameras, not cameras for taking photographs, but cameras that would allow an AI assistant to see and understand the environment around you. You might open your fridge and ask what you can cook. Look at an object and ask, what is this? Use hand gestures to control devices. Receive directions without staring down at your phone without staring down at a map. Smart glasses are moving in a similar direction. Meta has reportedly sold 7 million pairs to date. Snap just launched their new generation AI glasses that can operate independently from a phone. And the broad promise is quite appealing. For decades, computers have demanded that we stop what we're doing and look at them. Sit at a desk, look at a laptop, take out the phone, enter the screen. Wearable AI offers the possibility that we could look up again. We might interact with technology while remaining present in the physical world. In theory, that sounds more humane. But I'm not entirely convinced, guys, because what if the screen doesn't disappear? What if we continue using our phones just as much, and then we just add in smart glasses or camera-equipped earphones as an always listening AI assistant on top? Instead of reducing technology's role in our lives, we might be making it ambient, constant, invisible. Technology would no longer wait for us to take it out of our pockets. It would see what we see. It would hear what we hear. It would interpret our surroundings, potentially advise us continuously. And this is where the supposedly screenless future becomes ethically complicated, because a phone is intrusive, but at least you know when you're using it. Ambient technology blurs that boundary. You may not know when somebody's glasses are recording. You may not know what the AirPods can see. You may not know whether a device is processing information locally or sending it to the cloud. And you may gradually stop noticing that your own life is being mediated by technology at all. So perhaps this is not the end of screens. Perhaps it's the beginning of something far more intimate. We've spent the last 20 years teaching our bodies to adapt to smartphones. And now the tech industry wants us to move computing directly onto our faces, into our ears, and across our field of vision. Which raises my question to you, Matt and Mel. Are screenless devices going to free us from our phones, or are they simply going to make technology impossible to escape? Keen for your thoughts.
Well, thank you for that context. I'm finding it all a little bit overwhelming. I don't know. I saw recently, you guys might have seen this as well, that Kylie Jenner was part of a big advert to push her newly designed Meta glasses to try and get. I was trying to look up the stats on this. Traditionally, men have adapted smart tech over women faster. So I think to try and get more women interested in Meta glasses and to purchase them, they've got Miss Kylie Jenner on the case. And I just don't know how I feel about it. It's all just quite a bit overwhelming. I also recently on TikTok came across a guy, weirdly, who lives in my sister's town, who got caught with his smart glasses in a workout class, like recording himself in the workout class. And he went quite viral, and not a lot of people were happy about that. They had no idea they were being filmed. They didn't give their consent. Even if he was filming himself in a mirror, which meant a lot of women in the class felt very uncomfortable. So there's been a lot of backlash. So again, I mean, I'm not really buying it, but people are purchasing these things. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
I didn't know about the Kylie Jenner thing because there's a few points that stuck out for me when Jag was introducing that. And one of them was a stat about, I don't know, did you say 4 million pairs of Meta have been sold, Jag?
7 million.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, 7 million. And that kind of jumped out at me because I thought that's a lot more successful than I thought. And maybe Miss Jenner has had a hand in that. I don't know, that would explain it. But a few of the things that popped out, let's just go on the fact that you're overwhelmed by these products and they're being pushed, because I feel the same, Mel. But as well as those surprising sales success of Meta, we've also got Snap Inc., who are obsessed with pushing their spectacles, now called specs. And this is something close to Jag's heart, because we spoke about this in a previous episode. Jag's eyes lit up and he couldn't stop waxing lyrical about spectacles. We're now on 6th generation. They're now called specs. They've been launched recently. You just talked about it, Jag. They don't need the phone to be attached. There's a little bit of controversy because Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snap, wore them on a press release, and it looked like the weight of the specs were crushing his ears. I don't know if they did that on purpose to create a bit of, PR. The world is a weirder place than we expect sometimes. But here's what I think. Snap wouldn't be obsessed with pushing these if they didn't see a screenless future. Apple wouldn't be putting cameras on their AirPods if they didn't see a screenless future. And Apple would do that if they realized also that it wasn't going to eat into their big cash cow, which is the iPhone. So I'm a bit cynical, and I think they know that we're all still going to be obsessed with our screens, and they're going for the next thing, which is when we look up from our screens. So yeah, unfortunately, it looks like they're going for the whole shebang, the whole ambient technology, ever present everywhere. You look, listen, or whatever you're doing. I'll just end on a positive note. The thing you said about the recipe, looking in the fridge, is awesome. But the thing is, I can just see myself scrolling on my phone, sending an email, and then thinking, damn, I've got to make dinner. Now, at the moment, when I look up and go to my fridge, I'm back into the analog world. But then going to the fridge, opening it, and then something in my ear goes, you can make ratatouille tonight, Matt. Emailed you the recipe just by looking in the fridge. It's amazing, but also scary, right?
I love the fridge example from you, Matt, and also the gym story that you shared, Mel. Probably a 2-in-1 follow-up question for you both on this. Leading on from the fridge example, I suppose, could an ambient AI world actually make us more present in the real world? But then, in addition to that, would you be more comfortable surrounded by people who are wearing smart glasses with a camera or AirPods with a camera?
I'm not too sure I'd feel very comfortable. I feel like it was one thing when you held your phone up to record people, right? It was clear that you got your phone up and it's a position that you can clearly see people do it discreetly, but it's another thing where you just can't tell. And I think what's scary is that it will be increasingly hard to tell what's being recorded and what's not. How do you even develop rules around that? Transparency around that? I don't know. It just is just very odd. So I don't think I would feel very comfortable with this moving in this right direction. In this direction, I also find it odd about Kylie Jenner. One of the points that came up about this was that her selling these now and designing her own ones is kind of funny because she talks a lot about her own privacy, her children's privacy. She's a huge reality TV star. And, she's said in interviews that it's really also overwhelming, to use that word again, for her to walk out of her house and be constantly filmed and constantly on camera, or people taking photos of her. So I find it really odd that now she's pushing a product that's kind of a surveillance tool that's going to make her lots of money, as well as Meta. And your kids could be filmed and you don't even know. And I find that really kind of frightening.
Isn't there a red dot at the moment? Isn't this what Apple have said that, or this is what we used before with the Google glasses, where a little red dot would come on, and that's how they got around it and said, oh no, you'll know you're being filmed because a red dot will appear. The thing is, though, I don't think that's enough. And for a lot of people, they won't see that, or they might not know. It might be a different generation. If they're talking to my mum, she's not going to know at all. So what about if there's a light in there that lit up your whole face, so your entire face became red, so people were like, oh, you're recording me? I don't know, something extremely obvious rather than a little red dot. Would that solve it? I don't know.
Thing is, guys, little story on my side on this. So I've been living in Hong Kong now for 8 years, and I can say in this part of the world, not just Hong Kong, but a lot of East Asia and even Southeast Asia, you go around and people will film in public, and if you're in the way, or if you're there, or if you're part of a gym class, doesn't matter, they'll film. So when I first moved here, it was like shocking. I remember first couple of times I went for a hike. Hiking is very popular in Hong Kong. and I'm not the most physically able person. So I'm hiking up this hill, and I don't want to see what I look like when I'm hiking up a hill. But then there's a lady at the top of this hill just filming point blank in my direction. And I'm thinking, this is terrible, and then this is probably going somewhere, Instagram, and I'm in this view. And, it's just the thing over here. I remember in my first job in Hong Kong, a colleague came up to me and said, "Oh, last night you were at that bar." And I was like, "How do you know?" And then like, "Oh, because, you were in someone was live streaming on Instagram, and you were in the background." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so it's very common on this side of the world. And 8 years in, I'm very comfortable now. Like, I'm sure I'm filmed all the time. I like to take the tram in Hong Kong to places, and the tram upstairs is always full of tourists, and I'm sure I'm on many a tourist's video. But that has changed my behavior. So I recently took a trip somewhere in Europe 2 weeks ago, and there I was just filming without a care in the world. And then I realized, I was like, "Oh, you wouldn't have behaved like this a few years ago." And it's like, okay, maybe I need to reel it in. So I think there's cultural elements to it, but I think as a general rule of thumb, it's, I guess in public, you really have to kind of vanilla yourself a bit, because you never know when you're being filmed. But it doesn't this all isn't this a good thing though, guys? If we're solving, the physical problems I talked about that the smartphone causes. So if we solve the physical problems caused by technology by introducing even more technology, isn't that a good thing for the world?
Well, no, because I'm sorry, I don't think people are just gonna, "Oh, look, a new way of interacting with technology. Where's my smartphone? In the bin." That's not going to happen. People, look how wildly addicted we all are to these phones. I'm talking to you and I'm just checking mine now. It's ridiculous. So I think maybe we'll get weaned off our smartphones, but I think it will take quite a bit of time. So in the meantime, here's a new way of interacting with technology. So I don't think it's going to change our behaviors. It's just going to increase the amount of technology that we're interacting with. Going back to you being filmed as you're walking around Hong Kong, it's definitely a cultural thing. I've seen more than once here on the beaches of Rio, Brazilians telling off Japanese or people who are from tourists from the Far East who are going along the beach and filming, and they get told off by Brazilians aren't afraid to go up to them and say, "Stop that." So I've kind of seen that and gone, "Oh, that's a bit awkward." As a British person, like, "Oh God, I feel embarrassed for everyone," but it happens. So that's a cultural thing. So yeah, I'm sorry. My thoughts are that it's not going to free us from the body phone, the phone body, whatever it's called. It's not going to. We're still going to be staring. We're still going to be doing an Erling Haaland with our necks, looking at our phones, and then we're going to look up, and technology is going to talk to us.
You've both got kids. Do you have a preference, or do you just hate both? Like, is it that you're happy with your kids to grow up and embrace the smartphone, or do you like a world where potentially they could not be addicted to their screens and the technology is ambient around them, or do you just not like any of it?
Well, I don't know. Recently in the UK, there's been that whole thing where they were going to ban social media and for kids. I don't know if you guys caught that. That was a few weeks back now. And I think a lot of us were kind of happy about that. I again, don't really love the idea of my kids having a phone, especially too early. I also would find it, I don't think I'd love it if it was just always so like easily accessible like that, like wearable tech. Like, I mean, getting my like Fitbit, if I may, OG Fitbit was one thing. I guess, yeah, that's smart tech, that's wearable tech, but it's a whole different ball game where you have that like this invasive kind of thing where it's just like glasses and it's right in front of your face, literally eye to eye with somebody. That I find a bit too much. Even as somebody who suffered from just to go back to that point that you were saying about the body, I've actually in the last year have had issues with my thumb and my wrist, and now I sometimes wear a wristband and these glasses I'm wearing. I only just started wearing them a year ago because I went to Specsavers, and they're like, "Yeah, maybe you should start wearing some super readers." I think that's definitely from being on all this tech. I still don't know if I want it on my body, on my eyeballs like that, and for my kids.
For me, for my kids, I want to keep them off the screen. I've only got one as far as I know. I want to keep her off the screen as much as possible because you can see how addictive it is. And I'm gradually introducing the concept of AI to her. But it's tough. I don't know, because even when I introduced ChatGPT and showed the questions you can ask and things you can create, and she absolutely loves it. And so she's addicted to it, or not addicted to it, but she wants it. She wants it more. She'll come up to me and say, Daddy, can we ask ChatGPT something? In a way that's kind of a little bit alarming. So introducing AI, going to keep her off the phone as long as possible, especially social media, especially because of society and girls and how dangerous that combination is when you throw in social media. Is it okay if I go back to the phone body thing, the physical changes? I think I've come up with an award-winning ad campaign for this. I think I've just come up with it. So tell me what you think. Remember Meet Graham, which was an Australian campaign. It was by a traffic agency in Australia. It won a Cannes Lion, won all the awards. It was basically, they created a version of a human, of what a human would look like if it evolved to survive car crashes. So there was kind of like this guy with this giant skull, it was computer-generated image of this human and with this huge rib cage. I'm just thinking, to get across the fact that we're kind of altering our bodies by being obsessed with our phones, can we do a Meet Graham 2 or Meet Gina, I don't know, where it shows you an exaggerated version of a human, what a human would look like after it's evolved into staring at screens and phones. It kind of got like I'm thinking, elongated neck, just to bring that out. Do you reckon could we enter that? Could we? Because I've never been to Cannes, guys. I really want to go to Cannes and, drink rosé with you guys. It'd be the dream.
I mean, as a woman in her 40s, all we ever get is the scare about like wrinkles. And like there was something about like wrinkles on your neck from Tech Neck. And like if you projected that to people and you could see the future, it might make them think twice about their relationship with tech and their phone and how they're holding it and all that kind of stuff and how much you're using it. So yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. That's not going to win a Cannes Lion. And maybe. All right, Jag, what do you think?
I was just going to say, appeal to the vanity of society, wrinkles from Tech Neck. That would work, probably. That would work. Do you know what, guys? Let's move on from this topic. But I think, summarized on it, I think the commercial opportunity isn't only replacing the phone. I think it's, for the tech companies, it's capturing all the moments when we currently put the phone away. I think that's probably why they're trying to get into ambient and an ambient view of our world. And removing the screen, I don't think it necessarily removes the distraction. But anyway, let's move on. And let's move on to Mel. Mel, you're going to talk to us about AI becoming the first stop for choosing university. The battle for a student's attention may no longer happen on Google. It might happen in a chatbot.
Yeah, I thought this might be an interesting topic for us to discuss because, I certainly was looking at universities or choosing universities in, I don't want to tell you, 20 years ago, where this was definitely not a thing. And one of the articles that I found was from a publication called Wonky. They are a higher ed publication here in the UK, highly regarded. And it was all about how ChatGPT and chatbots are quietly replacing Google and even parents and teachers as the first stop for choosing a university. This is a hot topic in my world of student marketing. And I thought this was interesting to look at their survey they talked to 4,500 UK applicants to see how they're looking at choosing a university, and essentially one of the biggest decisions of their lives, and a very expensive one, as we know, especially in the UK and US and other countries. What I thought was interesting was that they're still looking at university websites. So that is the first port of call. Again, back in my day, I don't think we had university websites. I'm not that old. But they said only 13 to 16% trust AI more than a teacher or parent. And they still trust open days. So if it's a bad open day, it's going to put them off. And so that was interesting to see. Also, they are aware that AI does get things wrong. So nearly 3/4 said they had encountered incorrect information from AI, and most wouldn't trust it to make their final university choice. And the opportunity for universities does seem to be clear. They have to make official information easier for AI to find. In fact, at Hubbub, we are offering that service now to audit websites because it's so key for student search and student finding your website. So yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to discuss. I mean, when I was choosing my university, represent University of Buffalo, I went to the library and got out a big old book. I was looking this up today. I actually found some of the old covers and it gave me nostalgia. You know, in the 90s, you would go to the library and US News World Report had this big, thick book, and you would go and flip through it. And, you know, in the States, you had to go by state. So I probably flipped to New York and looked at all the rankings, all the information I could get. And there were a few different, I think Barron's put out another one of these. You would go to the library, get the book, bring it home, and just sort of go through and see what were the opinions, the rankings, where they stood in whatever major you were choosing. And that's how you would sort of inform your decision, as well as talking to other folks who might have gone to that university, or brothers, sisters, etc. And yeah, I just wanted to hear your opinion. How did you guys choose a university? It is a huge decision to make. And now as a parent too, my kids are young, but anyway, I mean, God knows what I'll be doing in 10 years time making that choice if they do want to go to university. Yeah, I'm just curious what you guys think.
Well, I'm super interested in Matt because I'm still trying to figure out his age. So it might be like, went to the whatever. I don't know what they did back in Matt's day. But interestingly for me, for my undergraduate degree, Mel, I studied in the US. I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Florida, but being from the UK, getting across to the US, I went on Amazon, bought a big, thick book, Barron's something or another. It was massive, like a telephone book. It arrived eventually because I think I had to get it from Amazon.com, not .co.uk. Did my research online as well. And because I was young, I wasn't just picking for academia. I saw that University of Florida had a very high ranking in the party school rankings. There was even a website at the time, doesn't exist anymore, called GainesvilleParty.com. And it was just a group of students that did this website about the various party, and they were doing it UF. And I was like, okay, this campus is also massive. They had a Nike store on campus. They had a football stadium, an American football stadium, golf course, basketball arena, big US pop stars would come to that campus to perform. It was like, what is this? So I picked really not much on the academia. Got my degree from the Warrington College of Business, but I picked that way easy back then because US universities were hungry for international students, and my grades were all right. So all right grades in Britain is like, slightly more than all right in the US. So it was fine.
I love that bit of that little
What
pause.
are you trying to say, Jag?
I'm trying to say, I'll tell you the difference. I'll tell you one thing and then I'll pass on to Matt. Whenever I had to write an essay at UF, I could just write my opinion. Whereas when I was writing essays in the UK, my opinion doesn't matter. I need to cite my sources. I can't write, I think this or I believe that. I'm nothing. I need to cite what some actual intelligent people had written or said in a journal. And that was like the easiest thing as part of my degree, writing essays in the US. But the multiple choice Scantron exams I missed the most. The A, B, C, D, E, punching the holes in. That's certainly not in the UK university. Loved my time at UF. Loved it. Go Gators. Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Love that.
Wow, it's amazing. So I want to take you back to the Middle Ages now, because that like ordering stuff on Amazon, every part of that anecdote didn't exist, I'm afraid, when I was looking for my university. I went to Leeds University. I loved the place. I loved the experience, and I'm starting to realize how lucky I was. because my process in in finding out where I was going to go was not rigorous in any way. I went to Sheffield College. They had a pretty bad, small little library. I remember thinking, oh God, this A-level stuff's going to end soon, and I'm getting pressure to kind of come up with where I need to go and what to study. And I just went into this library and thought, I like science. What topics are there in science? And I literally went to the science books and looked at the books, and there was a book that said pharmacology. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it was a study of the body and how it interacts with drugs and how drugs interact with the body. So it's medicine, but without all the excessive study and cutting of bodies. So I was like, that's it. Just one afternoon walking into the library at my college. And then, I'm sorry guys, but I then had to send off for packages in the post, and I would get brochures through from universities after I had written to them via post to tell them that what my predicted A-levels were going to be. And then I would get through these full brochures, and then I would decide which open days to go to based on the brochures. And then the open days had a big impact. So the leads, and I think they still do. So this wonky article that you sent through that I had a read of, Mel, thankfully, open days and real life interactions with reality still have an impact. I think it's just this immediate part of the process, beginning part, which, even Jag sounds futuristic to mine, because he's going on, he's curious, he's going on Amazon, he's buying stuff, he's looking at party sites. But it takes a step forward to now. If I was a student now, of course, I would use AI as the first part of the process. But because it's not good enough yet, it's not robust enough yet, and students aren't stupid, they know that they can't completely rely on it. It's just the first step of the process. But as you say, if you are a university and you want to, get students, make money, which is what universities have to do, they should definitely be looking at their AI SEO or GEO or AEO, whatever you want to call it. It's becoming more and more important, isn't it, to if you're a company in this setting, a university or a higher education company, to have your information put out there so that AI bots can crawl it and find it for that first part of the process. But for me, it was all done in an analog world.
Well, that's a good point. Actually, I was going to ask you if you're seeing this maybe also with clients or activations that are trying to do something analog, because I think, or more in that direction, because I think there is a thirst for, analog experiences. But your point about brochures and, prospectuses and all of that, somebody posted on LinkedIn about a welcome pack that, after you get the, admissions, the letter of acceptance or whatever, it wasn't just a letter, but it was like a nice pack, really done really well, that you get to your house that you can physically open with like a welcome to the university. I think that's a nice touch. And I think universities are still doing that. But of course, now they've moved to digital.
I'm such a sucker for merch. If they sent me merch, if a university sent me merch when I was 18, I would have gone to that university. Oh God, that's how shallow I am. Sorry to interrupt, Mel, but I just got excited. 100%. I just got excited by a package coming through the post with merch in it. Like, imagine the University of Leeds, jumper.
Sweatshirt, yes.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's go.
Hoodie.
Hoodie, next level.
Scarf. It's cold in Leeds. I don't know. I went to Buffalo. It snows most of the year.
Buffalo, yeah, but I'm a northern lad. Can't wear a scarf. It's a little bit no. There's a cultural thing there.
So Mel, off the back of all of this, where do you think universities are going with this? Because what I liked about the story that you shared and what you took us through was that when most people discuss AI in universities, the conversation or the mind frame naturally goes to, AI in universities, we're thinking about essays, assessments, teaching, whether students are using ChatGPT to complete assignments. We're thinking about AI influencing students when they're at university. But obviously what's happening here is it's happening much more before that. Are you seeing a change? Are universities now marketing to algorithms rather than students?
Absolutely. And not just like, I mean, now they need to adapt to be found on the AI tools like ChatGPT and in Claude, et cetera, like we were just talking about, but also on social media. Like I hosted a webinar not that long ago about all of this, like showing up on TikTok, showing up on Instagram, getting in those Reddit feeds, Discord, like they have to kind of be where these students are at. And so they're thinking a lot around that. How can we show up exactly in the algorithm? What does our digital footprint look like? What are other students saying about us on YouTube, on all these channels? So they're having to be everywhere and get to them, quite early on in that journey. It's really interesting also to see about the international student cohort. So how like South Asia or South Korea, certain students are relying more and more on AI, and other students from other countries aren't as much. So catering to certain nationalities, if you're trying to target, and increase your student numbers from a certain country, where are they? Are they actually relying on AI to find you? Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of that. And, every conference you go to in international ed or on student marketing is all, as you guys probably know, in different worlds as well, different industries, it's all about AI and student marketing. So yeah, big increase in that.
One quick thing I wanted to talk about before we move on from this topic. Do you remember the personal statement that you had to do for UCAS, right? Because I'd forgotten all about that until we started researching this. I wish I could remember my personal statement, but I looked into it and thought, is that still a thing? It is. You still have to do a personal statement. There's a certain amount of characters that you have to use, and the spaces in between the words are count as characters. It's proper characters. I thought it was interesting. This has got to be like Jag says, when you think about AI and students and university and learning, the first thing that pops into your mind is cheating, overusage. How do you regulate it? And actually, for the personal statement, when I went on UCAS's website, it didn't say you are not allowed to use AI in your personal statement. It says you can. It was a little bit wafty, actually. It says, it has to be from you, but what you can't do is take something from AI, copy and paste it in, because they have ways and means of looking into that and finding out whether it's been done or not. And then that will obviously affect whether you get into the university or not. But two questions. How important is or was the personal statement in this world? UCAS is obviously the UK charity that looks after entries into the universities. And the second one is, does anybody, I mean, it's probably to you, Mel, does anybody know what the rules are in terms of using AI for a personal statement? I mean, I would have thought it would be like, you cannot use it, but it looked like it wasn't that straightforward.
Yes, I believe they have some kind of like built-in AI detection. So for AI generated content and for submitting your statement, it can be flagged as plagiarism. So I think students can use it to brainstorm, but you have to be careful if you just have it write your whole thing and submit and press submit. It could really hurt your chances of getting into your, the university you'd like to get into. So yeah. But there is a tool they have. I think it's a really good question, Matt. Like I remember, again, I did it in the US, but we definitely had a personal statement. I remember brainstorming it at like the dining room table with my dad. There was no way that I could like chuck it into chat and be like, can you help me think of some intriguing, ideas here? Nope. Just at the table with my dad with a pen and paper and trying to think of something that would be compelling. So what a tool to have today. And I guess you still have to be careful, because I think there are these AI detection tools that universities are using and they're getting better and better so they can pull you up on it. So, yeah.
Given, younger people's reliance on AI, when they're in that decision-making process of which university to go to, do you see a scenario, Mel, where students allow AI to make every university decision for themselves, in the sense that which university they're going to attend? And I suppose the reason why I ask this question is because AI can compare courses, but it cannot experience a campus. But does that matter to this generation or the next generation of students? Do they care to visit the campus when their best friend Claude tells them, no, go here. It's obvious. Just go there. It's fine.
What's been interesting to see is they still do care about seeing the campus. Even there's like ed tech companies that have cropped up to help do that. There's one actually based in Leeds, Matt, called Vepel. And they do virtual tours, and those are popular. If you're from South Asia, you can't go there physically. I think, you know what I think the number one factor here from stopping them making that choice maybe are the parents who are fronting the bill or helping pay for it. And they might push back and be like, okay, I know you did your AI research, but can we maybe get a brochure or look at the digital prospectus and think this through and look at all that we have at our fingertips to make this huge decision. So it might go in that direction, but I do feel like maybe the parents might stop that from happening completely. And also what was interesting from that article is that they were aware that they were getting some misinformation from AI, so there wasn't 100% trust, but as it gets better, and they very well could just choose that tool to make this huge decision. But that's what I think, my personal opinion, especially as a mom myself.
Brilliant.
Millennial
mum. Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Mel. Thank you for bringing that topic to us. I think we'll move on. But yeah, really, really interesting talk. Universities think they need to persuade two audiences, the student and the algorithm, advising them, potentially three audiences if we include the parents. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Mel. And you know what, Matt? Let's move on to you, because you have brought us quite a few humanoid robot stories that I'm starting to suspect that you're preparing us psychologically for something. I think an announcement is coming later this year from you. But anyway, this story you've got for us today is the most consequential robot humanoid story so far. Go for it, Matt.
Yeah, I do seem to be a little bit obsessed with robots, especially humanoid robots. But I mean, it's because I grew up watching terrifying movies where humanoid robots were wiping everyone out. So it's made a deep impact on me. But I'm actually going to carry on the University Magical Mystery Tour as well, because we've been to Leeds University, then we went to University of Florida, University of Buffalo. Now we're going to the University of California, San Diego, where some bright sparks have decided to use some relatively cheap humanoid robots. So they're from Unitree, which is a Chinese robotics company. We've talked about it before, rather I have, because of previous episodes. I'm slightly obsessed with humanoid robot stories. The Unitree G1 robot is quite versatile, cheap, as it's $20,000 per unit. And so what happened is the university got together and thought, remote surgery is a thing. It's been a thing for a while. There's been this robot, not humanoid, called Da Vinci, which does remote surgery since 2007. But it's very static and very expensive. So what the guys at the University of California realized, and what they've realized is, we've got this remote surgery that can be done, which is amazing. Remote surgery is in, the surgeons are in another country, another location, but the robot is controlled by them, and it can do the laparoscopy, or it can do the urology surgery, whatever it is. That's been available for a while through a company called Intuitive that create the Da Vinci robot. Been around since 2007, been doing regular surgeries, remote surgeries since 2012. Costs $2 million per unit, and it can't move. Wherever it is, that's where it is. It's the surgeons that join into it remotely. What we've got now is these two robots have done the two G1 robots from Unitree. They've been remotely controlled by surgeons, but the two humanoid robots are doing the surgery. They've done it on a live pig, did surgery on its gallbladder, and it was successful. The surgery was successful. The pig didn't die. So you might say, so what? We've already got robots doing this. Are you just doing this because people like Matt Webster like to see humanoid robots? No, there's actually a big shift here in how this could help the world. So there are lots of places in the world still where it's hard to get access to medical treatments, especially specific surgery and surgeons. And it's also difficult to get to places where the Da Vinci robot, the big stationary expensive thing, is situated. So if you live in a remote area, it's very possible, if this work continues, that 2 of these unitary GI humanoid robots could fly in on a drone, jump out the drone, walk into your small medical center, sit down, then click into a top surgeon in New York City, who then performs that surgery on you out in the middle of the Sahara Desert in Chad. That's very possible, and that brings surgery to more people via these very accessible humanoid robots. Want to know what you guys think once you get past the fact that we're living in Terminator 2 plus 20 years at the moment in real life? Like, this is real futuristic stuff. But apart from that, just wanted to know what you guys thought of the story. Are you as excited about it as I am, or is this just geeky, weird stuff?
It's geeky, weird stuff. No, I don't know how excited I am, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. It's very futuristic. My first thought when I read the article was, well, you know how like a lot of people are using like AI for their GP now because of resources or not being able to see a GP? I mean, we all know, well, I'm sure you guys know what's going on here with the NHS and in the UK. So a lot of people are relying on tech already to get information about a specific health problem. This seems to go further where it's like okay, this is tech that's literally like doing something on your body. Like, I know that the first one was a pig, but maybe you wake up from the anesthesia and you see a humanoid robot thing in your face. That is really overwhelming. There's that word again, overwhelming. Yeah, I think I'd be a little freaked out, but yeah, I don't know. I do think already we're using, like I said, tech in a lot of ways to get medical information. This seems like another step.
Matt, do you think that the breakthrough here is really the robot, or is it the ability to move human expertise across the world?
It's the ability to move human expertise across the world, because phase 1 was remote surgery via the big, heavy, expensive Da Vinci. That happened in the 2000s. This is the next step of basically you would have let's say we've got a top urological surgeon. He's hanging out, having lunch with his team in New York, but you want to have his expertise do surgery on you, but you live in Alice Springs in Australia. It's okay. You can choose that surgeon can actually do the work on you. His expertise and his team will be moving the apparatus that will do the surgery on you. So yeah, it's freeing up expertise to remote places of the world. Exactly that, Jack. Plus, they look like things from Terminator 2.
Would you guys allow a remotely operated humanoid robot perform surgery on you?
Yes. Let me just say first, before either of you guys come in, you like to go hiking, Jag. Imagine you went, I can't use Hong Kong as an example because I don't think there's many remote places, but imagine you decided to go to Algeria for a holiday and you went for a nice old hike right out in the middle of the Sahara and tripped over a rock and got into trouble. You could now dial in, I'm thinking about a little bit into the future. You could call up Unitary G1 or the University of California to fly in a couple of humanoid robots it'd be cheap to fly them in, drop them off and do surgery on you out in the middle of the desert, save your life. What do you think about that? You'd say yes to that if it was that or die in the desert, right?
I like your scenario. I think something Mel said a couple of minutes ago is a more likely scenario. People in the UK already don't want to wait for a GP appointment. They'll pay £50 or whatever via an app, and they'll see a doctor that same morning, that same day. What if someone needs surgery, whether it's life-threatening surgery or whether it's cosmetic surgery? Rather than fly to Turkey for that hair transplant, you can just go to some discreet small location in Leeds, be given an entry code, go in, there's waiting 2 robots, they'll hack away at your head or whatever they do, and then you can just take the Uber back home, So I think it will democratize is the wrong word, but I think it will make available much more surgery of all kinds to people, which people will have to sign away at their own risk. And people will do that because if it's £50,000, 50,000 US dollars, whatever it is for me to have whatever I want done, versus there's a top level surgeon, but he happens to be whatever, based out of India. I'm not going to go to India, or based out of China. I'm not going to go to China, but he or she, that surgeon, tremendously recommended. Everything's good. I just need to sign the waiver that if these robots hack me to death, that's my own responsibility, but it's only going to cost me £2,000 rather than 50,000.
I love the idea of you going into that booth, and instead of like choosing a Sprite or a Fanta, you just press which surgeon you want to remotely occupy the robots. Awesome.
If I set my personal fears aside for a moment, what Jag said about democratizing this whole thing, like, I think that's a really interesting point. Like, there are places that are like medical deserts, rural communities that don't have access to maybe hospitals or, the kind of medical care that you might get in a New York City or a London, right? So I could see this greatly benefiting places like that. Perhaps an emergency search and rescue situation or something like that. Like, I could see the benefit there of like, you need surgery, you need it now. I think there could be, definite benefits. I still find it a little bit eerie, a little bit scary when I think about it. But then, tech is moving, tech moves fast. So yeah, it reminds me a little bit of, okay, this is just aside, but my brother has been into 3D printing for like years now. And when you think about prosthetic limbs, he was involved in projects where you could 3D print prosthetic limbs. Okay, this is very different than the humanoid robot thing, but sort of connected in the sense of democratizing medical care. It brought the cost down of prosthetic limbs greatly, especially in the United States where we all know things cost a lot. And so it kind of reminds me a little bit of that and how you could use technology in this way is to get people things that they might not be able to normally afford in the old school way of doing things because it costs more. So yeah, why not? Maybe.
So basically, you're both excited. Awesome. Welcome to the future.
I didn't say that.
There's a part of me that hopes it could reduce global health inequality. But when something, potentially good happens, there's often a potentially bad or an exploitative avenue. And I could totally see these top clinics in California and Harley Street not stating the doctor's name, but saying, get your surgery done by our wonderful Harley Street surgery approved, but they don't confirm which doctor it is. So you might, get a nose job, whatever. And you might say, oh yeah, I got it done by whatever, the great California rhinoplasty surgery, the most famous one. And they're like, oh yeah, who did it? Well, the T1000 in Bristol City Centre. But it's like, yeah, but which doctor? Well, it doesn't matter. It was accredited by that surgery. But where the surgeon was located. And I think that's the challenge of if it suddenly becomes an accredited California rhinoplasty nose job, but where is that doctor? That doctor could really be a doctor in India or whatever. That it's just, yep, you're accredited. Rajesh, you're good enough to do our nose jobs for us. And yeah, you go, there's that chap or that lady in Bristol. She's going to have it done at 4 p.m. today. There we go.
Are you telling me I might be able to get like a Kris Jenner facelift here in Bristol now? It could be, or like Kim Kardashian surgeon. Hey. Wow, the future.
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian surgeon made available in Rotherham and Oldham alike.
That could genuinely happen. We joke now, but Kylie Jenner's promoting Meta glasses this year. What she promote 5 years from now, Get your surgery done the Kylie Jenner way.
Yep. Bristol City Centre.
Oh, the brand connections are getting so weird now. Oh, wow.
What a world.
Yeah.
What a world we live in. Do you know what, guys? I think we'll wrap it up there. It's been a great conversation. And Mel, thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time and coming on the pod today. I've really appreciated your time and also the conversation that you brought to the episode.
You're so welcome. This was so fun.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Matt. And you know what I loved about the 3 stories for me today was that I think it shows in all 3 stories, technology is moving closer, not only from our screens to our hands, not only from devices to our faces, not only from helping students search for information to shaping the shortlist that might determine their future, and from assisting doctors to physically operating on a patient. And perhaps that's a defining shift, that technology is no longer simply something we use. It's becoming an intermediary between us, our bodies, and our choices and our care. The opportunity is enormous. But yeah, what a great episode. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Mel. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listeners. This has been episode 117 of Disconnected, and we'll see you on the next one.